Live from New Delhi, you're watching DD India Live, India's voice to the world. I'm Mark Lynn. Namaskar. Coming up in the next 30 minutes. Displaced Gazans return north as Israel-Hamas truce holds. US troops in West Asia to monitor the situation. US President Donald Trump escalates China trade war with 100% tariffs. Threatens to exit talks with his counterpart Xi Jinping. US shutdown enters day 11. Mass layoffs begin as Trump freezes infrastructure funds for New York, California and Illinois. Prime Minister Modi unveils schemes to boost farmer welfare and rural growth, focusing on pulses productivity and credit access. Let's start with news from West Asia. And displaced residents returned to northern Gaza on Friday following the truce between Israel and Hamas. People are walking north on Al-Rashid Street towards Gaza City after a ceasefire began and some Israeli troops pulled back. Much of northern Gaza has been destroyed after 2 years of fighting, with about 75% of Gaza's city buildings they are damaged. Israel says that it has finished the first part of its troop withdrawal, but its forces still control about half of Gaza. Now, Hamas has until 9 o'clock GMT on Monday to release all Israeli hostages. 20 are thought to be alive and up to 28 are believed to be dead. Now, Israel plans to release around 250 Palestinian prisoners serving life sentences and possibly another 1,700 detainees from Gaza. Residents carrying belongings pushed carts as they headed towards Gaza City, describing the return as an indescribable feeling and hoping things stay peaceful moving forward.
It is an indescribable feeling. We are very, very happy that the conflict has stopped and the suffering has ended. It has come to us by the power of the one and only God.
We are tired, really tired. Thank God we are going back to the city. And God help us. We hope things will be good in the city and we find a corner to live in.
US President Donald Trump on Friday outlined his upcoming visits to Israel and Egypt following the Israeli government's approval of Phase 1 of the Gaza peace plan. Describing the ceasefire agreement between Israel and Hamas as a great deal for the world, Trump said that the deal would secure the release of hostages and the return of approximately 28 bodies.
As you know, on Monday the hostages come back. They're getting them now. They're getting them now. They're in some pretty rough places under earth. They're in some pretty rough places where only a few people know where they are, in some cases. So they're getting them, and they're also getting the bodies, approximately 28 bodies. And some of those bodies are being unearthed right now as we speak. They're working on it right now as we speak. It's a tragedy. It's a tragedy. I'll be going to Israel. I'll be speaking at the Knesset, I think, early on, and then I'm also going to Egypt.
Meanwhile, up to 200 US troops already stationed in West Asia will be moved to Israel to help monitor the Gaza ceasefire. The US military will set up a multinational task force in Israel called a Civil Military Coordination Center, likely to include troops from Egypt, Qatar, Turkey and the UAE. It's led by the US Central Command. This task force will oversee the ceasefire's progress and also help coordinate humanitarian aid. The French President Emmanuel Macron on Friday reappointed Sébastien Lecornu as the Prime Minister just 4 days after his resignation. Macron made this announcement late on Friday, hours after meeting all the main parties together at the Élysée Palace, except the leaders of the far right and far left. Lecornu on X said after the Élysée announcement that he had accepted the mission out of duty. He further added that anyone joining his new cabinet must give up plans to run in the 2027 presidential race, promising instead renewal and diversity of skills. As the Prime Minister, Lecornu has to face an immediate test to present a draft budget bill for 2026, first to the Cabinet and then on the same day to Parliament. Missing the deadline would in fact leave lawmakers without the 70 days the Constitution grants to debate and pass the budget before the year end. The Constitutional Court also requires 8 days to review this legislation. If Lecornu is brought down by a no-confidence vote, as some opponents are already promising, Parliament would need to pass emergency stopgap legislation to authorize spending, taxation and borrowing from January 1 until a full budget is adopted. France resorted to such emergency measures last December after the then Prime Minister, Michel Barnier, his government was ousted, invalidating his proposed 2025 budget. France has been mired in a political stalemate since the president dissolved parliament in June 2024, triggering snap elections that produced a hung National Assembly and left Macron's centrist bloc without a majority. U.S. President Donald Trump announced an additional 100% tariff on China on Friday, reigniting his trade war with Beijing in a row over export curbs on rare earth minerals. In a post on social media, Trump said the extra levies plus U.S. export controls on any and all critical software would come into effect from November 1. Trump accused Beijing of taking an extraordinarily aggressive position on trade and warned that the United States will respond in kind. He also said that export controls will be placed on all critical software starting the same day. Trump also threatened to pull out of a meeting with China's President Xi Jinping. He later said that he had not cancelled it, but that he did not know that we're going to have it, quote-unquote. Rare earth elements are critical to manufacturing everything from smartphones and electric vehicles to military hardware and renewable energy technology. China dominates global production and processing of these materials. And earlier, China had hit the United States-owned vehicles, or vessels in fact, docking in their country with tit-for-tat port fees in response to the American government's planned port fees on Chinese ships, vessels owned and operated by American companies or individuals, as well as ships built in the U.S. or flying the U.S. flag, will face a 56 per net ton fee per voyage if they dock in China. The new port fee takes effect from October 14, and the same day, that's the United States plans to impose, these similar tariffs or fees on Chinese vessels. Earlier this year, Washington and Beijing had engaged in a tit-for-tat tariff war that nearly halted trade between the world's two largest economies. Though both sides later agreed to ease the tensions, the truce remains fragile. The White House on Friday said that it had begun mass layoffs of federal workers as the federal shutdown entered the 11th day on Saturday. With the crisis set to go into a third week and no off-ramp in sight, Trump's budget chief, Russ Vought, he had announced on social media that the administration was following through on threats to fire some 750,000 public servants placed on enforced leave. The job cuts were underway, and the Treasury Department is the place where they are happening. The U.S. Health Agency is another place, the Internal Revenue Service and Departments of Education, Commerce and Homeland Security Cyber Security Division. However, the total extent of the layoffs was not immediately clear. Roughly 300,000 federal civilian workers had already been set to leave their jobs this year due to a downsizing campaign initiated earlier this year by Trump. Trump on Friday blamed Democrats for his decision to lay off thousands of workers across the U.S. government as he followed through on his threat to cut the federal workforce during the government shutdown. Trump has repeatedly threatened to fire federal workers during the shutdown standoff. Trump also ordered the freezing of at least $28 billion in infrastructure funds for New York, California, and Illinois, all home to sizable population of Democratic voters. The Massachusetts Institute of Technology President Sally Kornbluth on Friday rejected the White House's memo that outlines new conditions for universities to qualify for presidential federal funding. In an open letter to the U.S. Education Secretary Linda Mahone, the MIT president said that this memo underlines academic independence and, in fact, it undermines it. Now, in this letter published on MIT's website, Kornbluth said that the premise of the document is inconsistent with MIT's core belief that scientific funding should be based on scientific merit alone. MIT is the first university to formally reject the proposal. Other institutions, including Brown University, Dartmouth, also the University of Virginia, Vanderbilt, the University of Arizona, and the University of Southern California, they've said that they were still reviewing the administration's demands. Now, the University of Texas has welcomed the initiative. In Seychelles, in the third and last day, this is the third and last day of voting for the presidential election runoff. Polling is underway, and this is the main island of Mahé on Saturday. Voters are choosing the nation's next leader, and neither opposition leader Patrick Hermani and the incumbent Wavel Ramkalawan, they secured the required 50% majority in September's first round. The narrow margin reflects a deeply divided electorate in the East African country. Both candidates have focused their campaigns on key issues including tourism recovery, sustainable development, and managing the nation's debt-ridden or debt burden, in fact. Now, the runoff, it follows a peaceful first round that saw strong voter turnout across the archipelago's inhabited islands. Results are expected within hours of polls, and the winner will serve as a 5-year leader, leading the nation known for its pristine beaches as well as unique biodiversity. Extreme weather conditions continue to batter parts of the world. Strong winds and dense fog lashed Sabah Island this is a tropical storm Jerry, which has churned through the Caribbean on Friday. French authorities placed Guadeloupe on red alert as the storm passed close to the islands. Meanwhile, Martinique in the south, it remains under an orange alert. Spain's southeast region of Murcia faced severe flooding after Storm Alice struck early on Saturday. The State Meteorological Agency had issued a red alert for Murcia and the Valencian community on Friday, with warnings downgraded to orange and yellow by Saturday. As a precaution, in fact, schools and community centers, they remained closed amid fears of worsening weather. Still to come here on DD India Live, International Day of the Girl Child is marked to celebrate and amplify girls' voices globally. Anmol Kharb reaches the semi-finals at the Arctic Open Super 500. She delivers standout performance. In fact, he does. And World Migratory Bird Day celebrated today. A special report highlights efforts to protect birds and their habitat.
So now you can't talk about British imperialism in India without talking about the East India Company.
Britain is just dotted with the visible representations of loot from India. The one thing you folks have never done is just say sorry.
Are you ready to roll?
I'm ready to roll.
You're watching DD India Live. I'm Mark Lynn. Our next story. In a landmark push to India's agriculture and allied sectors, Prime Minister Narendra Modi launched schemes worth around $4 billion during the special Krishi program in New Delhi today. A key highlight of this event was the launch of the PM Dhan Dhanya Krishi Yojana. Dhan Dhanya Krishi Yojana. Now this scheme, it aims to enhance agriculture productivity, also promote crop diversification, boost post-harvest storage infrastructure, and also improve access to credit in about 100 selected districts. The Prime Minister also launched the mission for Atmanirbharta in pulses, and this initiative seeks to increase pulse productivity, expand cultivation areas, strengthen the value chain, and also minimize post-harvest losses. Now, in addition, the Prime Minister also dedicated, in fact, to the nation various projects in agriculture, animal husbandry, fisheries, and food processing sectors. Prime Minister Modi interacted with farmers engaged with pulses cultivation. They have directly benefited from various government schemes. Later, addressing the public, the Prime Minister reaffirmed the government's commitment to agricultural growth, rural development as well, and farmer welfare.
आज देश का मिजाज ऐसा बन गया है कि वो कुछ उपलब्धियों से ही संतुष्ट नहीं होता है। हमें विकसित बनता है तो फिर हर क्षेत्र में लगातार बेहतर करते ही रहना होगा, सुधार करना ही करना होगा। इसी सोच का परिणाम है पीएम धन धान्य कृषि योजना। और इस योजना की प्रेरणा बनी है आकांक्षी जिला योजना की सफलता। पहले की सरकारें देश के 100 से अधिक जिलों को पिछड़ा घोषित करके भूल गई थी। हमने उन जिलों पर विशेष ध्यान केंद्रित किया, उनको आकांक्षी जिला घोषित किया। इन जिलों में बदलाव का हमारा मंत्र था कन्वर्जेंस, कोलैबोरेशन और कंपटीशन। यानी पहले हर सरकारी विभाग अलग अलग योजनाओं, जिले के हर नागरिक, सबको जोड़ो, फिर सबका प्रयास के भाव से काम करो और उसके बाद बाकी जिलों के साथ स्वस्थ स्पर्धा करो। इस अप्रोच का फायदा आज दिख रहा है।
Prime Minister Modi also held a meeting with the President and the CEO of Qualcomm, Christiana R. Amon. This happened in New Delhi. And they discussed India's strides in AI, innovation and skilling. The Prime Minister said, "It is great to see Qualcomm's commitment towards India's semiconductor and AI missions. India offers unmatched talent and scale to build technologies that will shape India's and Qualcomm's collective futures." The CEO, Cristiano, on his part, he thanked Prime Minister Modi for the great conversation on fostering a broader partnership in support of the India AI and India semiconductor missions, as well as the transition to 6G. And he said that the company is encouraged by the opportunities to develop an Indian ecosystem across AI, smartphones, PCs, smart glasses as well, then auto industrial parts and more. India's External Affairs Minister, Jaishankar, he met the Ambassador-designate Sergio Gore of the United States in New Delhi. The two leaders discussed the India-US relationship and its global significance. Jaishankar extended wishes to Gore for his new responsibility. The Foreign Secretary Vikram Misri also met Sergio Gore. They held a productive exchange on the India-US Comprehensive Global Strategic Partnership and its shared priorities. The Foreign Secretary wished Ambassador-designate Gore all success for his assignment. Sergio Gore's week-long India visit started on Thursday. This is his first visit to India after being appointed as the next ambassador to India. The 38-year-old Gore is also the youngest U.S. ambassador to India. He is one of the closest aides of the U.S. President Donald Trump. In a tragic incident, the Indian Army's Chinar Corps has confirmed the martyrdom of Lance Havildar Palash Ghosh and Lance Nayak Sujay Ghosh, who made the supreme sacrifice in the line of duty. The two Indian Army soldiers had lost their lives during a relentless counter-terror operation in the Kishtwar range of South Kashmir. Notably, both the soldiers suffered a loss of communication on the intervening night of October 6 and 7, when an operational team operating in the mountainous region encountered a severe snowstorm and whiteout conditions. Paying tribute to their bravery, the Chinar Corps hailed their courage and dedication, stating that their sacrifice will forever inspire future generations. October 11 is observed every year as International Day of the Girl Child, as declared by UNICEF, a global occasion to honor girls around the world, amplify their voices and promote their leadership. Here's the report.
October 11th is celebrated annually as the International Day of the Girl Child to recognize girls and elevate their voices worldwide. The theme this year is The Girl I Am, The Change I Lead, Girls on the Front Lines of Crisis, which highlights girls' leadership in crisis situations. According to UNICEF, 122 million girls worldwide are out of school, including 34 million girls at the primary level and 87 million at the secondary. At the same time, the gender gap in global labor force participation still persists. Women's participation in the labor force is significantly lower than men, with the gap being 26% in South Asia, 20% in West Asia and North Africa, 53% in Latin America, and 59% in East Asia. With 2025 marking 3 decades since the Beijing Declaration, it is time for the world to assess whether the goals of gender equality set back then have genuinely been met. At the same time, girls around the world are stepping up to face today's biggest challenges. They are raising their voices for climate justice and demanding an end to violence globally. Today, women are confident problem solvers, striving to become self-reliant in every field. India has always prioritized welfare of girls. Schemes such as Beti Bachao, Beti Padhao and Sukanya Samriddhi Yojana have been launched nationwide. These initiatives not only aim to empower Indian women, but also ensure equal rights for them. Consequently, India has been steadily advancing its position in the Global Gender Gap Report year after year. Meanwhile, UNICEF is working with girl-led groups and networks at the global level to help create a world where girls' voices are not only heard in policy-making, programs and humanitarian response, but are also acted upon. Bureau Report, DD India.
India's Anmol Kharab sailed into the semi-finals of the Arctic Open badminton tournament in Finland. This is the first time that the 18-year-old has reached the top 4 of BWF Super 500 badminton tournament. The Indian shuttler defeated Denmark's Amalie Schulz 21-15, 21-14. In just 36 minutes, it was Kharab's third consecutive win over Schulz, following victories at last year's Polish and Belgian international tournaments. Meanwhile, Dhruv Kapila and Tanisha Crasto bowed out after losing their quarterfinal matches. Every year, as winter grips the northern hemisphere, the skies above India come alive with winged visitors from thousands of miles away. These migratory birds, symbols of resilience and wonder across continents in search of warmth, food, and safety. But they bring more than beauty. They carry a message of balance, coexistence, and the urgent need for conservation. Well, that's all we have in this edition of DD India Live. Let's know your thoughts on the news of the day. And for those of you on the go, get the latest news and updates from India and across the world. The DD India mobile app is available on both Android and iOS platforms. You can scan the QR code and download it now. We'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. My name is Mark Lynn. From all of us here in Delhi, thank you for watching DD India Live. Namaskar.